Good morning, year one and year two. It's Monday. Welcome back to your online English lessons with Mr. Phillips. Same hashtags, same email as last week. Hashtag St Anne's Live at St Anne's Rainhill, rsa.year6 at 3-saints.org.uk. That's where all your work can go to this morning. I hope you've had a lovely weekend and great to see you back. So, it's Monday, so we're starting again with another writing lessons. We're still carrying on with The Way Back Home by Oliver Jeffers. We'll do that for the rest of this week, and then next week we'll go on to something different. So we're going to carry on with the writing from last week with this book. But before we get started, should we warm ourselves up on a Monday morning with a little bit of a spag activity? Okay, here we go. On the board, we're getting used to how this works now, aren't we? So, year one, I've written you a sentence on the board. It says, "It was a warm day, I wanted to play." It was a warm day, I wanted to play. But I've missed some things out of that sentence. It was a warm day, I wanted to play. I've missed out capital letters and full stops. That's Monday morning thinking brain, isn't it? Capital letters and full stops are missing from that sentence, or those sentences. Can you have a go at writing that sentence, putting the full stops and the capital letters in? Or tell someone who you're working with now where the capital letters and the full stops should go. While you're doing that, year two, look at yours. I've written you a sentence as well. I looked at the school from my house. I have remembered my capital letter and I have remembered my full stop this time. But for yours, year two, I've actually underlined some words. I've underlined looked, I've underlined school, and I've underlined house. What I want you to do is tell me for each of the underlined words, is it a noun or is it a verb? Is it a noun or is it a verb? Can we see there? Is that, if I close that door, is that a little bit better? There we go. Can I see what I've written now? Is it a noun or is it a verb? That is your challenge, year two. Okay, year one, back to you. I gave you this sentence. I said, it was a warm day, I wanted to play, but I'd missed out all my capital letters and all of my full stops. Well, we know that a capital letter has to go at the very beginning of a sentence. So here is the very beginning of the sentence. So this I, this I, should be a capital letter. So that was one we've corrected there. I also know that there has to be a full stop right at the end of the sentence. So at the moment, this is the end of my sentence, so I know there has to be a full stop there. But I wonder, am I missing a full stop in the middle? Is there a point in there where really I'm stopping the information and telling you something new? Well, let's read it out loud and see if there's a place where we naturally pause. It was a warm day. I wanted to play. Well, a little bit like when we were doing and last week, it was a warm day is one piece of information, and I wanted to play is another piece of information. So we should be able to put a full stop there. It was a warm day for one sentence. I wanted to play is my second sentence. So that full stop is in the right place there. Now, if I put a full stop here, then this means that this is now the beginning of my sentence. So this I also has to change to a capital letter. So there was 4 possible answers you could have got there in year two. Year one, sorry. I wonder how many you got. Did you get this one and this one? And did you manage to spot this one and this one as well? Year two, you've had a bit of time now. Your sentence was, I looked at the school from my house. And for each of the underlined words, I wanted you to tell me, is it a noun or is it a verb? Well, a noun is a naming word. It's a thing, a person, or a place, or an object. We come to things. A thing, a person, a place, it's the name. Whereas a verb is a doing word. something you're doing, an action you can do. Apologies for being so crammed up in the bottom of the board there. Didn't give myself anywhere near enough space, did I? So a noun is a thing, a person, or a place, and a verb is an action or a doing word. Well, let's take each word by itself. So first of all, looked. Well, that's not a thing, a person, or a place, is it? Looked is something you can do. It's an action. You can look. So looked is a verb. School. Now, school is a place. St. Anne's is our school. So school is a noun. We've had one verb and one noun. And then we've got house. Well, house is a place and a thing, isn't it? The actual building is a thing, and then it's your house. So it's a place as well. So that is also a noun. You can't do house. House is not a thing that you can do, so it's not a verb. So looked was a verb, school was a noun, and house was a noun. I wonder how you got on with those. It's really good to be able to tell the difference between a noun and a verb year 2, and really good to be able to spot where you need your full stops and your capital letters year 1. Perfect. Right. Shall we continue now with our writing? Hopefully you got your writing from last week. If not, don't panic. Does not matter. I have my writing from last week, and the first thing we're going to do is going to have a little bit of a recap. So we've gone so far, we've done the first page of Once There Was a Boy and him finding his plane, and then we got ready, didn't we? And then we did the bit going up into the sky. We've done all of that. So let's have a read of what we've written already. Now, I don't know if you remember, I forgot to write the first bit down because I didn't have a notebook. So the first bit I'm remembering, and then the second bit I'm going to read off. So, once there was a boy who loved adventures. Crash, bang, thud. He was launching his toys into the cupboard. Suddenly, he found a red metal aeroplane. His arms rocketed into his sleeves, and his feet shot into his shoes. Then the boy decided to hop in the plane and go on a mission. He lifted off into the clear sky, which was full of clouds, soaring, gliding, flying. That's what we've got so far. What we're going to add on today? Well, what's the next bit that happens? So he's up in the sky. I wonder if you can remember what's happened from last week when we read the book. Suddenly, his plane spluttered. It had run out of petrol. Now the boy was stuck on the moon. What was he to do? Oh dear. This is the bit we're going to do today. We might get onto this bit, but we might not. We might just stay on this bit. We'll see how much time we've got. So we're going to do the plane running out of petrol and then him ending up on the moon. That is the bit we're going to do today. That's our plot point 3 for today. So we're going to do it exactly the same way. What we'll do is I'll do some writing, and then I'll give you guys an idea, and then you guys can use mine to support yours, or you can come up with your own brand new ideas, okay? So let's get started. Our last bit of the writing finished on us going flying, gliding, soaring, doing those 3 repeated words. So now we need to introduce the idea that something bad happens. Something very different, because the last thing we were writing was really good and he was going up into the air. But now we need to introduce the fact that the plane started to make strange noises. So we need what's called a fronted adverbial. Again, don't worry about the name, just that's what it's called. So we could use, what could we put now to introduce the idea that the plot is taking a different turn? Well, the one we normally use is suddenly. Something was happening and then, whoops-a-daisy, see me now, knock that then. And suddenly this happens. Suddenly Mr. Phillips knocks the board. But we've actually used suddenly before, already in our writing. So maybe, because we've already used it, we shouldn't use it again. What else could we put? We could put, he was soaring, gliding, flying, just then. We could say just then the plane ran out of fuel, or right at that moment, the plane ran out of fuel. Right at that moment. We could write out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, the plane ran out of fuel. We could write all of a sudden. A sudden, which is slightly different to suddenly. All of a sudden, the plane ran out of fuel. Any more? I bet you can probably think of loads. Out of nowhere, the plane ran out of fuel. Just then, the plane ran out of fuel. Right at that moment, the plane ran out of fuel. All of a sudden, the plane ran out of fuel. Can I think of another? Let's try to think of one more. One more that's like that. Well, to be honest, we don't have to have it happening. Oh, we could do however. However works really well, doesn't it? So, however, the plane ran out of fuel. So, which one do we think we want to use? I think I like the idea of this one. Right. Oh, hello, my cat. That's my cat Barry. He's wanting to leave the door. There you go, get a quick glimpse of Barry. He's appeared in both the year 3 and 4 video and the year 5 and 6 video, and now he's appeared in the year 1 and 2. There you go. I think we're going to use right at this moment, but you don't have to use right at that moment. You can pick a different one, or you can use your own. So I'm going to use that to tell us that suddenly there's a change in what happens right at that moment. Get rid of all of this. Here we go. Nice big capital letter to start my sentence. Right at that moment. There we go. And then we put a comma to separate it. Right at that moment. There you go. I've written a little bit bigger for you this week, so I know some people couldn't see last week. I've stopped joining for you guys, because I know some people couldn't tell what I was writing sometimes. Right at that moment. Right. I don't want to jump straight to the plane running out of fuel. What would happen before the plane ran out of fuel? Well, it would start making some noises, wouldn't it? So I think I want to do that bit first and then have the plane run out of fuel, just so we're slowing it down a little bit, giving my reader something a bit more interesting. So right at that moment, comma, that's going to be something you can change if you like. You can add just then or suddenly or whatever you want to do. Right at that moment, the plane started. Now, what noises could it potentially make? Now, we might want to do what Oliver Jeffers did, because he said that the plane was spluttering. Yes, spluttering. Should we make our list of words down here? Spluttering. And I like spluttering because it's almost like coughing. It's almost giving the plane human actions as if it's coughing. So we could actually say coughing. The plane started coughing. Now, it didn't really start coughing. It was just making a sound that sounded like it was coughing. So spluttering, coughing. It could also start moaning. It could start moaning. Or it could start groaning. It could start growling. Because I know when I press the accelerator too hard in my car, it makes a noise, especially if I've not got in the right gear. It's like the car is growling. So I might say that the plane started growling. Some good words now, aren't we? Growling, coughing, spluttering, moaning, groaning. What other noises could the plane make that's almost like it's complaining that it's running out of fuel? Well, It might not even make noises. It might do things. So it might start shaking. Can't help joining my handwriting. Shaking. It might start trembling. It might start, and this is one of my favourite words, shuddering. Shuddering, that's a really good word. That's when it's moving really quick. Shuddering like shaking. There we go. That is a great selection. So maybe we should pick 2 of these. Right at that moment, the plane started, we could have spluttering and shaking. Oh, maybe we should do alliteration when both the words we pick start with the same letter. So we could go for, it was groaning and growling, and shaking and shuddering. That would be really good, won't it? Maybe if we want to do moaning, we could do muttering instead, so we could still do alliteration. So we could have, it began moaning and muttering. What about coughing? It could, what else could we have that has a k sound at the beginning, so we could keep our alliteration? Coughing and crunching. Could make a crunching noise. Again, if I put my car in the wrong gear, it goes like it's crunching. So we could say crunching and coughing, groaning and growling, shuddering and shaking, trembling and can we think of another word just in case anyone wanted to use trembling but also wanted to do alliteration? We could do trembling and a sound or a movement beginning with T. Ticking, maybe. Trembling and ticking. There we go. We've got loads of ideas there. You might even come up with some of your own. Can you pick 2 of those and then add them on? And if you can go for alliteration where both words start with the same letter, then that would be great. I'm going to go for groaning and growling, I think. Right at that moment, the plane started groaning and I have to rub these ideas off now. Quickly pause the video if you need to. Have a little look at them. Pick the 2 you're going to do. Okay, off they go. Remember, you can always rewind again to go back and see which ones you wanted. Right at that moment, the plane started groaning and growling. You're going to replace both of those words. Right at that moment, the plane started groaning and growling. Let's put a full stop to end our sentence there. Brilliant. Now we need to tell our audience why that was happening. So I could say, there was no petrol left. There was no petrol left. And because it's quite a big plot point, because it's quite a sentence I want to emphasise, it's quite panicky, it would be shouted if a character was saying it, I'm going to put an exclamation mark at the end. There was no petrol left. Fantastic. You might want to take that sentence to explain why the plane was groaning and growling, but actually you might be able to come up with your own exclamation sentence that explains. Maybe you could say, right at that moment the plane started groaning and growling, full stop. He was running out of petrol, exclamation mark. You could say, he was going to crash, exclamation mark. The engine was broken, exclamation mark. Can you now add a sentence that tells us why the engine or the plane was making those noises? I've forgotten to keep saying stop the video, but you can stop the video there if you want to and catch up with us. Okay, so now we should have our adverbial here, which tells us that something new is happening. We have our 2 words to describe the plane noises and then an explanation with an exclamation. That's good, isn't it? Okay. Now, I don't want him just to land on the moon. I want it to be quite exciting. So if he's going to crash, how might his plane be moving through the air? Well, it might be rolling through the air, out of control. So I joined again there. Rolling. It might be diving out of control. It might be tumbling. We might just say it was falling. Diving, rolling, tumbling, falling. We could say crashing. We couldn't say crashing. All of those words we could use to describe how it was moving through the air. So I might say for my next sentence, there was no petrol left, exclamation mark, capital letter. It was, and by it I mean the plane, it was, which one do we like the best? I like rolling, I think. It was rolling out of control because the boy couldn't control it. Out of control. It was rolling out of control, and you can then change that word there. You could have it was tumbling out of control. You could have it was rolling through the sky, or it was tumbling through the sky. Whatever you like. I've gone for it was rolling out of control. Fab. We're going to keep moving because I want to try and get to the moon before we finish today. So if I'm going too fast, remember, just pause the video and catch up with me. Okay, so I'm going to say my boy had to land on the moon then. And I'm going to do a really long sentence because in this sentence, I want to describe the moon and add one of those relative clauses we used in the very, very first lesson, the who, which, wheres. So have a little watch to see how I do that. I'm going to say, the boy had to land. Remember my capital letter. The boy had to land on the right. What two adjectives could I use to describe the moon? I don't want adjectives like big or yellow or nice. I want really exciting adjectives like glowing or magnificent or radiant or stunning or beautiful. Those kind of really good words. I think I'm going to go for glowing and magnificent. Glowing because it's got this glow, hasn't it? It's like light is coming out of it, even though it's not really. And magnificent because it looks beautiful and it's fabulous. So the boy had to land on the glowing. I'm going to separate my adjectives with a comma. Magnificent. Moon. I like magnificent moon because again it's a bit of alliteration. The boy had to land on the glowing magnificent moon. Now here's where I'm going to add our relative clause in. Do you remember right at the beginning we did once there was a boy who? Well, now we're going to do the boy who had to land on the moon which. And instead of saying who, we're going to say which, and then we can add more information about the moon. The boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon, which... Now, what else could I say? Well, I might want to tell you what it looked like. I might want to say how far away it was from his current position. I like that idea. I'm going to do that. The boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon, which was only a short distance away. Ooh. Got to the bottom of the page now. My handwriting goes all messy. I can't control the pen properly. Full stop. Which was only a short distance away. But I could have said the boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon, which was full of craters. Or the boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon, which was like a golf ball floating in space because it was a big, white, cratered ball. Maybe something like that. If you're at year one, you might want to leave this bit out, and you might just want to say the boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon and replace glowing and magnificent. But if you think you're up for the challenge of adding a which clause at the end and telling us a little bit more, then feel free. The boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon, which seemed quite scary in the dark, or which looked like a half-eaten biscuit, because when someone takes a chunk out of a biscuit and you've got the crescent moon shape, something like that. Create a nice bit of imagery for us. And that is all of our piece of writing today. We filled the board today. We've done loads of work. Should we read it from the very beginning? Right at that moment, the plane started groaning and growling. There was no petrol left. It was rolling out of control. The boy had to land on the glowing, magnificent moon, which was only a short distance away. Wow, that is great. Now, what I want you to do is have a little go on your piece of paper in your notebook. Have a little go at writing your version of this next bit that we've done. And then we're going to have 3 versions together. We're going to have him finding it, we're going to have him getting ready, and now we're having him crashing on the moon. Ready for our final little bit on Wednesday, when we're going to write about him meeting his alien friend. If you struggled with any bits today, because we've gone a little bit quicker, and some of the stuff we talked about is a little bit more complicated, don't forget you can keep pausing, going back and having a little look, okay? Please, please, please keep sending me your work in, keep tweeting us, using the hashtag and the Twitter handles, and I will see you tomorrow for another reading session. See you later, guys. Bye.